Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough, the Parenting Through Challenges podcast. And I am so excited to bring a special guest with me today. I am here with Katie. And Katie, I'll let you introduce yourself, but I met Katie through a mutual friend and met Katie in person just this past week. We had such a lovely time connecting on such a deep level with somebody who I barely knew. So I just had to bring Katie here to share your gifts with everybody. So Katie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first time being on a podcast, so it's something new and yeah,
Yeah,
just
well, I'm so honored that you're here too. You didn't have to say yes, but you did. And you're not new to this world, right? You have a couple of YouTube channels, you've been teaching classes for parents, right? Teaching, talking, that part isn't new to you, just maybe a podcast.
right.
So Katie, I would love for you to share whatever parts of your story that you'd like to share to give our listeners a bit of a sense about what led you here to who you are today.
Okay. Well, my name is Katie Jones, and I have um really been passionate about kids my entire life. Um, as a child, I always loved playing with like my little cousins, and all of my neighbor kids growing up were younger than me, and I would always play with them and have so much fun. Um, and I started babysitting around 10 years old, and worked in a few different daycare centers, worked as a nanny, and then I started my own in-home daycare it was when my oldest child was 9 months old.
Okay.
And I have run my daycare I'll be celebrating 15 years in January.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it's been an interesting ride. And I would say that, in 2020, when COVID happened, I really kind of hit a rock bottom place in my life. And I had a friend reach out to me and ask me if I wanted to read a book with her. It was called Coming Clean. And I had never read for fun in my life. My reading pretty much stopped when high school ended and there were no more required reading things. But I just kind of got to this place where I'm like, what the heck? Sure, I'll read this book with you. And I really took it seriously, and I read all of it. And after each chapter, it had journaling prompts. And I did every single journaling prompt, and it really opened my mind to a new way of being that I never realized was possible. And it also opened up this hunger for learning. And after that, I just started reading tons of books and um, watching documentaries and searching on the internet. I was so hungry for knowledge. And it really started what I would call like a spiritual awakening in my life. Um, and once I woke up to the fact that I have been creating my reality my entire life, and that I can become conscious and create a new reality, um, it really opened things up. So over the past 5 years, I have devoted myself to being the best version of me possible. And as I have reparented my inner child, that's when I started questioning how we parent in America.
Mm,
And like, as I'm being this like sensitive, loving, understanding person to myself, I'm like, wait, but what am I doing and saying to these little kids? Like, um, and so that just opened up like, oh, what, how can I be different? I don't know how to be different with children. So then I started reading parenting books, and it wasn't until I found conscious discipline that I reached this like complete aha moment. It tied everything I had been reading and learning together into like one comprehensive program.
mm.
And I listened to every single conscious discipline podcast. I have read, I believe, every conscious discipline book that they've published. And I went, the first year, I went to two different trainings, week-long trainings, and did their e-course. And the second training I went to, I took my husband with me. And then the following year, I volunteered as a helper at one of their week-long courses. And then I did their advanced week-long course. So I just jumped all in, and have completely changed who I am as a person and who I am as a parent and a childcare provider. And it has been amazing.
Yeah. Oh, well, and this is what attracted me to you, right? We were introduced by a mutual friend who it's a friend from a local salt spa to me. She's been your friend for many years. And one day we were chatting about, what I stand for, and she's like, "You have to meet Katie." And I'm just so grateful that she said those words because it's so interesting how similar our path is. One, I think the pandemic like was this catapult, right? It seemed like it was such an awful thing while it was happening, but it opened, you are not the only one. I'm not the only one. It opened so many people's minds in ways that we didn't even realize till we looked back. I think that
Right.
many of us in the midst of the pandemic, for whatever reason, we were crashing or falling or struggling or suffering in some way, and we sought answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I am grateful every day for COVID. And Um, honestly, during the time when like COVID was a really big deal and quarantining and all of that, um, when we first had COVID in my house and my son got COVID, like the first thing I said in my head was thank you God, because I've really shifted and turned to gratitude and appreciation for everything in my life, and not judging or labeling or pushing away things that we may think are like bad or not that great. And that that week that he got COVID and then my whole family got COVID and I had to shut down my daycare because everyone had COVID, that was the week that I was able to watch the entire conscious discipline e-course. And that would not have been possible if we did not get COVID. I mean, like, when you can like be grateful for everything, then you can see those glimmers of like, oh, now it actually opened this opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was something so just perfect that you said, Katie, as you were walking us through your story that led you to who you are today. And you did not say that, you said that you were at your rock bottom, and you did not say, I needed to figure out what to do. You said, I figured out who I needed to be, which that is at the core of our happiness, right? As parents, as as partners, as employees or bosses or whatever our role is, there is nothing that we can do or get that's going to lead to our happiness. It's about who we're being. It's
Right.
about us making that decision that we want to be somebody who seeks gratitude in every moment. We want to be somebody who's on this consistent mission to figure out how to look at things through a different lens, perhaps.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something you said too that I thought was such a good match, and now it has left my mind. I was thinking about how um, when you and I met last week and you were sharing some of the conscious discipline strategies, which I definitely want you to share a few here if you're comfortable doing that. But the one that idea of gratitude, right, is also it's so parallel to the idea of looking at our kids' behaviors through a different lens. In that, right, if we're looking at our kids' behaviors with curiosity versus frustration, and that wonder
Yes.
of like, I wonder what they're trying to communicate. They might be
Yes.
pulling the cat's tail or, screaming at their sister or dumping their Cheerios all over the table. But what are they trying to tell us? They're always trying to tell us something. It might be they're trying to tell us that they're curious and they're trying to figure out how things work. It might be that they need a little bit more connection, or it might be that they feel like they don't have any control over what's happening right now, right? But that
Right.
idea of our kids, like us looking through a different lens. You did that for yourself and in your daycare, and I imagine with your family too.
Most definitely. Yeah. And one of the really big things that conscious discipline talks about is looking at every behavior as a form of communication. And this is not just with kids. All of us do this.
Yeah.
And when we see, a person with road rage or like whatever it is, like they're communicating. Um and it's it just gives this like softer feel to me inside of my body when I can look at it, and instead of saying like, oh my god, they're being so bad, they're so terrible, these terrible kids, but like, no, like they are communicating and they just don't have the skills yet, and I can teach them the skills, I can give them the tools for them to then make a different choice and communicate in a different way. But right now, they don't know a better way.
Yeah, yeah. And to your point, right, the same is true for other adults. I think recently I recorded a podcast about co-parenting. Whether you're talking about you and your partner or you and your ex-partner, or maybe you and your new partner who isn't your child's biological parent, right? We're always co-parenting. I think like in my home, we have a multi-generational home, and my boyfriend and I are helping to co-parent my daughter and her husband's kids. We're all co-parenting. And those dynamics that happen, right? It's easy when we're working with other adults to think that, well, they're just being a jerk, or they're just being insensitive, or they're just being fill in the blank, right? But they're trying to communicate something too. They have needs. We all have needs. It's easier when it's our kids, right? They seem slightly more innocent, or like they're less manipulative, but we all do it because we all have needs.
Right.
Yeah. I when you were first telling me about conscious discipline, you were sharing some beautiful examples. I'd love to hear. So you had just brought up the idea of, our kids are always communicating. So um what would be a suggestion if, for example, like I shared a few, right? So right before I came up here today, the toddler was pulling the cat's tail and then she screamed at her sister, right? These things happen. What would How would you suggest approaching behaviors like that we're trying to take care of some tasks as adults and the kids are playing, and then all of a sudden in mischief doing things that can be frustrating to the adults? What would be some strategies?
That's a great question. So let's start with the cat's tail. So I actually have two cats, And one of my cats is more friendly than the other. And so Tiger, my friendly cat, will come around the daycare kids. And sometimes they do want to pull his tail. And what I am going to do through the conscious discipline lens is I am going to tell the child what to do. Okay. I'm not going to say, don't pull the tail, stop pulling the tail. I'm going to say, oh, you wanted to pet Tiger. When you want to pet Tiger, put your hand like this and pet from the top of his head down his back. And I'm going to model what I want the child to do. And then I'm going to say, okay, it's your turn now. And then I'm going to mirror what they're doing. Oh, Bobby, you put your hand on Tiger's head and then you moved it down his back and you felt his soft fur. So when we focus on what we want versus what we don't want, what we focus on, we get more of. Okay. So you focus on the negative, you're just going to get more negative. You say, don't pull the tail. The kid hears pull the tail. Like that
Uh-huh.
is what they are hearing. Okay. So we are going to just shift out of that and we are going to say what we want them to do. What was your other thing that you said
Well,
besides cat tail?
I'll think of it in a second, but I have to because I can hear the listener saying, "Yeah, that's great, Katie, except what if I model the right way to do it and the toddler says no and they smack the cat or they do something, right? Like, what do you do if
Oh,
it doesn't work the way that we want it to?"
right. Well, then sometimes we can kind of like take their hand in ours and we can do it together and we can be like, oh, you're doing it. Look. Oh my gosh, you are petting the cat so gently. And then the other thing that it maybe it's just not working. They are just gung ho on that tail. And then you can just say, oh man, you know what? Tiger doesn't like his tail getting pulled. And so we're going to have to choose something else now because that's hurting Tiger and Tiger doesn't want to be hurt. And we just have to redirect. And maybe that actually means moving their body physically or moving the cat physically. And that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great because this is exactly how it played out right before the podcast. The toddler on the tail and trying to like model like this is how we do it and the no. And so, I tried one more time and then I said, let's go see what daddy's doing. And then on
Yeah.
the way I said, remember, Kitty doesn't like getting her tail hurt. That was owie. Let's go find
Mhm.
dad. And so, but
Yeah,
sometimes the toddlers still have their own mind. Wait, all the
for
time.
sure. For sure. For sure.
Um, Now what was the other example? Oh, like sibling related things, right? That was the other
Okay.
thing I think we had chatted about the other day is, what happens when it's another child, right? So that idea of like, she's not going to pull her sister's tail, but maybe scream at her or swat at her or push her. So, what if it's two kids together and
Yeah.
things aren't going as maybe we would hope.
Right. Um, so when it's two kids together, if they are maybe yelling at another child, what the phrase that I use a voice that matches mine. And I am talking calmly. I'm like, oh, um, you're trying to get their attention. Use a voice that matches mine, and we could talk instead of yelling. We're going to yell when we're outside, and when we're inside, we're going to use a voice that matches mine. Um, and again, like sometimes these kind of things don't work. Um, but the best advice that I can give is just always remaining your composure. Your composure is so important because a child can never be in a higher brain state than the adult that's interacting with them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are down in your lower brain states, in your emotional state or your survival state, you are not going to be able to respond from your prefrontal cortex and really give a thoughtful, helpful response when you're in that place. So really focusing on taking deep breaths and taking care of yourself in those moments are so important, because as soon as you escalate, they're going to escalate also.
Yeah.
Um, so when you have two kids that are fighting over a toy or hitting or doing something like that, um, for me, I am very, very present with the daycare children that I take care of each day. And so I am on the floor in the midst of everything that they're doing. And I'm very conscious of what is going on. So as soon as that hit happens, I am going straight to the victim. And I am saying to the victim, did you like it? That the first time I heard that, I am like, what? Like, why would you even ask that? No, they do not like getting hit. But this is building in the child their knowledge, their confidence, their tuned into their internal system. Okay. And so you say, did you like it? They're going to say no. Now, what you're going to do is you are going to teach that child how to be assertive. You are going to teach, and in conscious discipline, an assertive voice we call a big voice. So I'm going to tell the victim, use your big voice and tell them, don't hit me. I don't like it. Then, after they do that and the child is calmed down, I'm going to go to the child that hit and I'm going to say, oh, you wanted the ball. When you want the ball, put out your hand like this and say, may I have the ball, please? We don't hit. Hitting hurts. So I am telling them what to do again. And I do follow it up with we don't hit, but that's not my focus. My focus isn't hitting. My focus is what I want. And what I want is for the child to ask for the toy. And their behavior was not bad. Their behavior was all they knew in that moment. They don't know a different way, and that's okay. So if you were to punish them for hitting and saying, no hitting, go to timeout, which is exactly what I used to do, you're not teaching them anything.
Yeah.
You're just teaching them that they're bad and that when they do bad things, then they get punished.
Yeah. And I feel so strongly that when we punish our kids, that we're not only helping them create this story that they're bad, that they're maybe not good enough, but we're also teaching them that when they have big feelings, we're teaching them that it's not okay to let anybody know, right?
Right.
We're teaching them that
Right.
it's actually not safe to have big feelings.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love this. There's something else that, well, I have to say, so I just couldn't stop sharing your strategies. So I told my daughter, right? She doesn't ever want mom advice, but when I'm like,
Of course.
I met this lady and she just would not believe the things she was saying. It was just blowing my mind. I was listening, and then I don't know, yesterday she's like, yeah, I've been doing that thing. Or I heard her saying to her husband, like, okay, so we're not doing timeouts anymore. And he's like, why? Just tell me why. And she's like, just don't worry about it. We're just not doing it. It was so sweet. But there was something that she's gonna hate me for talking about her on my podcast. No, she won't hate me. But
Oh,
um, but this is real life, right?
it is.
Um,
It is.
but there was something so beautiful that you said that I think that like in our heart we know, but we don't often say it out loud. But you said you said sometimes when the kids are just like wild, bouncing off the walls, sometimes saying words isn't what they need. Sometimes we just have to sit in the middle of the room and breathe and let the kids know we're breathing. And we're not telling them, you need to calm down or you need to take a deep breath, right? Though, as a mom or as a daycare provider, we're like, we need to fix it. We need to tell them what to do. They don't know. But it's not always that they don't know, it's that they just can't in the moment, right?
Right.
They just need that help.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. So what I said to Angie the other night when we were together in person was that there are moments. So in my home daycare, I care for 8 children. They are all not my own children. My children have aged out of my program. My own children are 10, 13, and 15. But I did start the daycare when my oldest was 9 months old. So I've had my kids in the program, but they're now not in the program. But there are moments during the day where I will have 4 or 5 kids all crying at once, or just like being kids and being crazy. And in those moments, I told her that I will just like sit in the middle of the room and close my eyes and I will just start taking deep breaths. And pretty soon, the level just naturally kind of comes down. And the kids get curious too. What's Miss Katie doing? You
Yeah.
know, like what they don't understand. And it just creates this calm space. It starts with you. And I think that is one of the most important things that I have learned. It all starts with me. As soon as I'm trying to change something outside of me, that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It starts with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that just hits the nail on the head with what this podcast is all about, because we think as parents, if the kids would just start behaving, I wouldn't keep losing my cool, right? If the kids would stop screaming, I wouldn't need to yell at them. If the kids would just listen to me, I wouldn't have to punish them. Well, why do we think that the kids need to make better decisions than we are making? It's ridiculous that we have the logic so backwards about how this all works. You are 100% right. I totally agree with you that it's us. We can't control other people. I mean, yeah, you can take the toddler's hand and help them pet the cat, but that's kind of the extent of it, right? We can't make other people change or do things, but our energy has a huge influence over other people's energy too, in the way that you
Right,
described, right?
right. And another thing that conscious discipline teaches is that no one can make you angry.
Mm-hmm.
No one can make you feel an emotion.
Yep.
If you feel like your kids are making you angry, you are giving your power away. Because what's really happening is that your children are doing things that you don't like, and you are being triggered.
Yeah.
And when you are triggered, there's some things that are happening inside of you that are like bam bam bam. And until you slow down and become the observer in your life, you have no idea that these things are happening, because I had no idea
Yep.
until I was taught this. But what happens is you're triggered, and when you are triggered, conscious discipline teaches about the different states of the brain. There's 3 states of the brain, and they are the survival state, which is the brain stem. So conscious discipline uses a little bit different words than like the technical terms. So the brain stem is like the technical term, but conscious discipline calls that the survival state. In the survival state, the only skills that we have are fight, run, freeze, or defend. So it's very like kind of animalistic in a sense of like, if you are in that survival state, you are just instantly reacting. These are programmed responses, okay? Because the survival state and the emotional state are both unconscious states. So you act without thinking. There's no thought there. It just bam happens, okay? So that's the survival state. Then there's the emotional state, which is the limbic system. In the emotional state, the skills that you have are backtalk, sass, yelling, verbal reactions. And another thing about the emotional state is that in the emotional state, what they call your CD-ROM is going to start playing. So, and that is what all of us notice the most are the thoughts that start playing in our mind when something that we don't prefer is happening. And it's like, this kid should know better. Why is this happening to me? It's very, I am the victim. I am
Mhm.
the victim. Okay. And so that's the emotional state. Now there's also the executive state, which is the prefrontal lobe. From this state, you are conscious. So now you have wisdom and unlimited skills because now you can make a decision, a conscious decision and choice, and respond rather than react. So something happens, you're triggered, boom, you go down into this lower brain state. What you need to do is become conscious that you're in this brain state. And how conscious discipline teaches this is you start taking deep breaths. So you breathe in through your nose, fill up your belly with air, and then out through the mouth. And they encourage you to take 3 deep breaths to really calm yourself. And while you're doing this, you're telling yourself in your head, I'm safe. Keep breathing. I can handle this. I'm safe. Keep breathing. I can handle this. And you're going to notice the thoughts. And then what I never knew is that there are actually sensations in your body that are happening during this process. And when you can sit in a triggered situation and breathe and tell yourself you're safe, notice the thoughts, don't fight with them, don't engage with them, let them be. All they are just stories and programs. Most of it is things that were programmed into you in the first 7 years of life, because that is when you are most susceptible to being programmed. So feel the energy in your body. Emotions are energy in motion. So all you really need to do is sit with the energy, notice the thoughts, and let it move through you and get to the place where you can be in that executive state, and then you can handle the situation versus just bam, like, and this takes time, and this is not easy. It's really not. And to be really honest, what has helped me to get into this place more than anything else is my own personal meditation practice, or like meditation for me. Essentially now, I used to use a lot of guided meditations, but now it's more of just sitting with myself in silence with no distractions. And I normally do this for at least 1 hour every day.
Wow.
And what this has done for me is create a natural pause. So when things happen now for me, there's actually this tiny window that I get. And in that tiny window, I have this gift of being able to just move to this higher center of my brain. And that was not the case in the past. I said to Angie the other night, like, once I learned these things about the brain with conscious discipline, I truly believed that I was pretty much in an unconscious state in survival and emotional for the first 35 years of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. There, oh my gosh, there was so much good in there. The one thing that kept standing out to me is as you were talking about how we as the adults, right, like our brain has these three different levels or phases. Um,
Yeah.
and also so do our kids. And when we think about the approach that we use with our kids, the way that we handle their behaviors, as we call them, matters so incredibly much, especially before, up until the age of 7, but after that too. And
Oh, yeah.
I know, there's so many different parenting protocols out there, right? Gentle parenting, strict parenting, sticker charts, behavior management, like all these things.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what is our goal as a parent? I think we approach our parenting style, kind of. I think we had talked about it when we were chatting the other day. We were talking about how it's almost like this pendulum swing. Like I was really strictly parented, so I'm going to be the most lenient parent, or I was really leniently parented, so I'm going to be really strict with my kids. And it like goes
Right.
back and forth, but neither of them, none of them have a goal in mind other than like trying to fill our own need. And
Right.
what I love about, I mean, it's mind-blowing how I feel like all of the things that I've been talking about on this podcast, using with my clients, just I've been like on this soapbox about parenting. Somehow I knew nothing about conscious discipline, yet all of my piece parts like all fit into conscious discipline. It's so fascinating. But what I was saying is conscious discipline, I don't know if it has that underlying theme, but my work does. You haven't said this in so many words, but it's like the goal of conscious discipline is to raise kids who value themselves. They see that they're lovable. They feel empowered. They trust their own emotions. It to me sounds like maybe unknowingly, right? I became a certified parent coach through Dr. Karen Curry Parker. You went through conscious discipline, but I feel like they're both working on raising empowered kids because they're the next generation, which puts us as
For
parents
sure.
or caregivers in this like position of parenting in a way that we are lifting them up. We're being stewards for them instead of us trying to like have them fill a need for us. Not that
Right.
we think that, right? As parents, we don't think like, oh, I had kids and I'm going to discipline them so that they fill my need, right? We don't think that. But when we take a step back and really reflect on what we were doing, it seems like that might have been our goal. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. Um, yeah. One of my biggest goals with my own children is that I create a safe space for them to be exactly who they are meant to be and pursue whatever dreams they hope to pursue.
Mm,
And I don't want them ever to feel judged by me. I don't want them ever to feel like they need to do something because that's what mom wants me to do. And we actually had a pretty interesting experience with our oldest child a few years ago. And because of all of the work that I've done on myself and through conscious discipline and through the trainings that I've done with conscious discipline, I was able to move through that situation with such grace. So my oldest daughter, Jalen, she's 15 years old. Her name at birth was Kylie. And when she was, I think it was 11 years old, she came to us and shared that she identified as non-binary and wanted to use they, them pronouns and wanted to change her name. And I was able to completely support her 100%. And I need to say that I am not being disrespectful to her pronouns, because a year or two ago, she ended up deciding to go back to using she, her pronouns and not identifying as non-binary, but she did end up legally changing her name to Jalen. We didn't do the legal name change immediately. We waited a few years, but she just wanted to keep the name Jalen because it would have been a lot. It was a lot to change names in the first place. But
Yeah.
then if we were to change back, it would have been too much, and she just wanted to stay with it. But I had people ask me, like, was that like really upsetting for you? And like all of these things. And I distinctly remember one point, I think it was when she officially told me the name that she had chosen, I started crying. And right away when I was crying, I just said to her, Jay, I'm not crying because I'm upset or like anything. I'm just like feeling my emotions. And I'm so happy for you. Like, I'm so happy that you know this about yourself and that you feel safe and comfortable to tell me and dad and the world and do this. Like, this is huge, you know? But if I hadn't gone through everything that I've gone through, I don't think that I could have handled that situation the way that I did.
Yeah. Oh, what a powerful story to just shed light on the work that you've done so that you can show up so differently for your kids.
Yeah,
Yeah. This work matters so much.
it does. It
Much.
really, really does. It makes such a difference.
Yeah. Oh, oh my goodness, Katie, I could talk with you forever, but I do want to wrap up this episode. I actually think I want to have you come back because the more, like, as the other thing as I was listening to you, and my mind can't not think about human design. And there were so many pieces where I was like, oh, I wonder how this would, intersect with conscious discipline. So, anyways, you should come back. It'll be fun.
I would love to. I mean, I have like pages of notes that I made before this that I've barely even touched in this episode. So, I
Oh my
mean,
goodness.
I've got content.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, so is there anything, so you'll be back, right? Is there
Right,
anything else
right.
that you want to make sure that you share in this episode as we wrap up here?
Let me see. Let me just take a quick peek. Um, um I do want to touch a little bit on emotions.
Oh, sure.
And a big thing in conscious discipline, like I talked about how I've been able to work through my emotions, but a huge change for me in that, because I have been able to regulate my own nervous system and move through emotions in the way that I do now. I am now able to hold space for other people's emotions, especially children, in a way that I never could before. Um, this may seem kind of crazy, but because of my line of work, but crying used to be a huge trigger for me. Huge. Like I would get very upset, angry about kids that would just cry and cry and cry. And it sent me in the lower centers of my brain very quickly. But now I'm in this place where I can honor all emotions and teach these children that I care for that it is okay to have any emotion that you have. And I never tell a child to stop crying or judge their emotions in any way. I just let them have their emotions raw and real. But then another big thing with conscious discipline is empathy and having empathy for these emotions, because we may think like this is so petty. You are crying over this like stupid doll, but to them, this is so important to them. And through my own work of like reparenting myself and like seeing myself like little Katie in this different way, I can see these kids and what they're going through and really empathize with what it is that's happening in that moment. Um, Many people mistake being empathetic with trying to happy up others and rescue them. Empathy means understanding what another person feels and having insight into his or her thoughts and actions. When you empathize with your children, you realize that you care about their ideas and feelings. Your empathetic response to your child's emotions helps them feel validated and gain insight into themselves. And true empathy demands that you listen to your child's feelings and thoughts without needing them to change. When a child is upset, I look at the situation and give a "you wanted" statement. For example, a child's getting picked up from daycare and they wanted to play longer. And now they're throwing a fit. So I pick up the child and I hold them and I take some deep breaths for myself first. And I just hold space for the emotions. And then I say, "Oh man, you really wanted to stay and play longer. And dad came early. And that was so hard." And the look on the kids' faces when I do this is like you see me.
Yeah.
You see me. You saw why I was upset. You didn't brush it off. You didn't think it was stupid. You actually saw that this is really freaking hard for me right now. And when you can put your place and yourself in that little child's position and see it from their eyes and their view, it creates a connection with that child, and it gives them this power of like, it's okay to feel these feelings. I'm safe to do this. And I didn't say this earlier, but the two most important things that all humans need: safety and love. And this is a felt sense of safety. Not just like, of course they're safe at my house. I have the outlets are all covered and the dressers have the bolts to the wall, like they are safe. No. What is a felt sense of safety? It is that this child actually feels safe in their body in your presence.
Yeah.
That is way different than, oh, I put all the outlet plugs in.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so much goodness here. And too, it's again, it's so interesting how many synchronicities there are with what you share. I love it so much. So, thank you for sharing all of that and for describing it too, because I think as parents, as caregivers, it's easy to say like, oh, you don't need to be sad. It's not a big deal, right? That I hear that word
Right.
so often. It's not a big deal, but to them it really genuinely is.
Exactly. And it's not our place to say. If
Yeah.
it's a big deal to them, it's a big deal to them. And for us to like put something new into, no, that's not what we're there for. We
Yeah.
are there to just coach and teach and be along with them and help them feel safe and loved. And their emotions are their emotions.
Yeah. 100%. Oh, what a perfect way to end. So, Katie, where can people find you? And you're working on something, so feel free to share about that as well.
Yeah. So, my daycare business is Katie's Kids LLC, and it is located in Oregon, Wisconsin. And my website is katieskids.childcare.com. Um, and you can see a little bit more about my daycare and my conscious discipline background and things like that on my website. I also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page for my daycare business, and I have a YouTube channel. And I started my Katie's Kids YouTube channel a few years ago when I was teaching conscious discipline classes and have videos on there about using conscious discipline. But then in the past, I'd say year or a little more, I have been recording myself reading children's stories on my Katie's Kids YouTube channel. And I really just started it because I wanted to I was seeing how much fun my daycare kids were having at daycare in circle time and when I was reading to them, and I just wanted them to be able to have it at home too. And
Beautiful.
then like some of my videos started getting thousands of views and I'm like, oh, I guess other people might like these too.
That's funny.
So it's really cool. So yeah, if you have little ones and you want them to have some fun children's books, finger plays, flannel boards, songs, all of that is on my Katie's Kids YouTube channel. And then I more recently have started creating a new business, which is called BU Daily Tools for Transformation. And this was kind of birthed at the end of summer when I was on a camping trip with my family. And throughout the summer, I was really just focusing on following my highest excitement and passion in every moment. And we're sitting at a camp out, and all of a sudden, this idea like pops into my head like, oh, I could make really cute affirmation cards and sell them to people because affirmations have been a huge instrumental part of my journey of reprogramming my subconscious mind and becoming the person that I am today. And that along with journaling and meditating, those are like my three things. And I'm going to be selling affirmation cards, journals, and meditations. And I am so excited for this. And so I've created my products, and I just did a branding shoot with a great photographer, Gootsman Photography, out of Janesville. And I just got my photos back last night.
Ah,
So
exciting.
yes. So I am in the process of creating my shops now. I'm going to have a TikTok shop and an Etsy shop that will sell my products. And I'm also on TikTok. So I think my TikTok handle is the @ symbol, the letter K, the letter T, and then girly, GURLY. It'll all be linked in the show notes.
Yes.
And yeah, so my TikTok page, and I also have a second YouTube page, which will be linked, but I think it's like BU Daily Tools or something like that.
Lovely.
And those videos that I create for that YouTube and TikTok are more just they're all over the board. Let's just say that. There's a little bit of parenting, there's a little bit of like spiritualness there. It's all across the board. But it's really fun, and I'm just following my fun and excitement and creating things. So
Oh, so cool. Well, what an inspiration for other parents too, right? That um,
yeah,
just because we started on one path doesn't mean that that's the path that we're supposed to stick with for the rest of our life, right?
right.
You're stepping into what lights you up. So, so beautiful. Katie, well, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you. I'm so grateful that we met each other, and I now have a lifelong friend who can chat
Yay!
all things parenting, spiritual development, personal development, all the things. So I love it. So thanks again for joining us, and I will make sure I get all of your links in the show notes so people can find you in all the places that they want to. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Angie. This has been such a pleasure.
Awesome.